if we compare the Corps of Engineers of the Indian Army versus other worldwide armies, where would you rank the Indian Army?
The motto of engineers is Sarvatra. We are all pervasive, we are everywhere. And to tell you the truth, we are the first ones to get inducted in the operations in classical battles.
So, do you think that joining the army should be made compulsory for everyone in India like it is in many other countries? Or do you think in India should it be a voluntary service?
It is a simplistic thing to say that it should be made compulsory.
How do you think discipline plays a role in the Indian Army's day-to-day operations and day-to-day life?
Discipline is integral. So if you are wearing a uniform, you are disciplined.
Sir, do you think Indian Army is at par with the Pakistan Army or the Chinese Army? Ever dreamt of becoming an engineer in the armed forces? Then this podcast is for you. Let's welcome Lieutenant Colonel Bhaskar, an army veteran from the Bengal Sappers regiment in the Corps of Engineers of the Indian Army. Hi, sir. Welcome to the show. How are you feeling today?
Hi, Joydeep. It's a pleasure to be here and to be talking to you.
Right, sir. Sir, you were an IMA pass out, sir. How was life in the IMA?
Oh, life in IMA is great. Those were the days when we enjoyed our pre-commission training after doing engineering. And yes, it is an experience by itself.
Sir, why don't you tell us maybe one fond memory of IMA, which is still there with you even today?
Okay, so when we were doing our training, our first term, which is supposed to be the most difficult one, was the easiest one for us because we were lodged in the barracks which were next to the Forest Research Institute in Dehradun. And during our second term, we had to shift to the main IMA campus. So that is one memory which we will carry throughout our lives.
Right. So they often say that the friends and the course-mates that you make during your academy days, they stay with you till the grave. How true is that?
Absolutely true. In fact, this year we celebrate our the 50 years of our commissioning. The Golden Jubilee celebrations are going to be there,
right?
During June 25,
right?
And the preparations have already started. So we are reconnecting with all our course mates, not just from IMA, but from all the different streams through which they join the Indian Army,
right?
From the National Defense Academy, the IMA, the Technical Graduates Course, the NCC cadets, the ACC, that is the Army Cadet College. So it's a great experience and it's nice to be talking about it here.
So, sir, what made you join the army in the first place? Was it that someone from the family told you, or was it your personal decision, no, that I want to serve my country?
When I was in my school, my late father was an NCC officer.
Okay.
And I also joined NCC, that is the National Cadet Corps, when I was in the school and carried on with it through my college. So the connection with uniform started from my childhood. And through my father, I saw and I came to know of many army officers who were at that time working with NCC. That is the connection with the uniform.
Right. So, so do you think that joining the army should be made compulsory for everyone in India like it is in many other countries? Or do you think in India it should be a voluntary service?
Look, the requirements of the armed forces are typical. And therefore, it is a simplistic thing to say that it should be made compulsory. Since the standards to enter these services are very, very rigorous.
Right.
only the select few are privileged to join the armed forces, not just the army, but the navy, the air force.
Right.
Yeah.
So, sir, if you can, tell us one instance of or example to the viewers of how difficult the army physical training is during academy days for anybody who's wishing to join the forces.
It becomes from simple things. You start with doing a bit of exercise every morning. And of course, for those who join the academy, whether it is the National Defense Academy or the Indian Military Academy or any training academy, initial few days are little difficult, but you will appreciate that we joined during the formative years, and therefore we get used to it.
Right.
And once that happens, they raise the degree of difficulty of training. So that is a gradual process, and it is graded in a manner that everybody who joins is able to complete the course successfully.
Right.
And then on completion of the course successfully is when you get your commission.
Right. So, you were from the Bengal Sappers regiment, sir. Oftentimes, the highlight of Indian Army for the outside public is generally the infantry or the artillery, but it is also the regiments such as engineers and signals, which is there, which provide like the backbone of the Indian Army. So why don't you take us through what is it to be a part of the engineers, and how is it different from maybe infantry or artillery?
You see, the joining the Corps of Engineers happened as I completed my engineering education before joining the army. And being a civil engineer, for me, the option was the Corps of Engineers. As it is, some of my colleagues who did their mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, electronics, computer sciences, they joined the Corps of Signals, Corps of EME. So there are the technical arms, which are the engineers and signals.
Right.
And then there are the services like EME. And for me, the logical choice was the Corps of Engineers.
Right.
And in the Corps of Engineers, we have three groups: the Bengal Sappers, the Madras Sappers, and the Bombay Sappers.
Right.
And there, the allocation of the groups is during the commissioning.
Right.
And that is random.
Okay.
So we were commissioned into the Bengal Sappers.
Right. So what does an officer who's part of the Bengal Sappers Indian Regiment do in their day-to-day work life? A day in the life of an officer of the Bengal Sappers.
So it starts in the morning around 6 o'clock. You start doing your physical training.
Right.
And then come back. If it is not the physical training, it is the drill. You are back. Then you are doing your regimental tasks after breakfast. And that carries on till about 2 o'clock lunchtime. Post lunch, go home, and then back to the unit.
Right.
There are several afternoon activities which continue, and they continue till late in the night during a typical day in the regiment. That is not true for the units which are in operational areas or the exercise areas.
Right. Right.
So they have a 24-hour schedule.
Right. So how does the Indian Army manage to construct roads faster than any other corporation or a private group? What makes it different?
I would put it this way, that the army or the Corps of Engineers, they have some component of earth moving equipment, machinery, tools and tackle, which is required for road construction, for other construction work as well. It is not just the roads that we construct, we also construct buildings. For instance, you must have heard of bunkers on the LOC or the LAC.
Right.
So there is a lot of construction work which goes on, and it is mostly done by the Corps of Engineers. and it carries on.
Right, sir. So, if we compare the Corps of Engineers of the Indian Army versus other worldwide armies, where would you rank the Indian Army in terms of their resilience, in terms of their uh, challenge of doing things faster, in terms of their skill, in terms of their knowledge?
The motto of engineers is Sarvatra. We are all pervasive. We are everywhere. And to tell you the truth, we are the first ones to get inducted in the operations in classical battles, because the engineers, they move in to do the mine laying tasks, and the whole idea is to provide mobility to our own troops,
Right.
and deny mobility to the enemy troops.
Right.
That is the classical role of the engineers.
Right.
So when we are providing mobility, first, we will build the roads, tracks, bridges. Second, we will demolish the enemy's roads, tracks, bridges. We will construct canals, channels, fill them with water. So when we joined, those were the classical tasks of the engineers.
Right. Right.
As now things stand, there are several other angles, because now you have the drones and you have the mobility has a different construct today.
Right. Sir.
So, but again, to reiterate, the entire effort of the engineers is to provide mobility and be of assistance to all the other troops which comprise our infantry, our artillery, our armored corps.
Right, sir.
And all of them have different requirements. Armored corps has its tanks, artillery has its guns, and they all need to move to the forward areas, to the operational areas. So this mobility is provided by the engineers.
Right. And how do we compare our skill level to, say, the US Army or to the UK Army or to the Russian Army?
We are among the best.
Right.
We are among the best.
Yeah.
You see, the skill levels, they continue to be responsive to the equipment, to the machinery which we have. And as we move from one level of sophistication to the next higher level, the skills and the manpower which we recruit, they are very well trained, and they are among the best operators in the world.
Right. What was your most memorable posting, and why?
Oh, every posting is memorable in some respects.
I'm sure you have a favorite, sir.
I had several tenures with the military engineering services.
Okay.
And one of them was my first tenure in an Air Force station, where I was called upon to construct a water treatment plant. Now, this has an implication on the subsequent development of my career, which is why I am mentioning that.
Right, sir.
Very early in my career, I constructed a water treatment plant. So that is one important thing. And another assignment which I loved was a posting to North Sikkim in areas which were not accessible during the 90s.
Right.
It is not so today, because now permanent roads have been constructed. In those days, there were no roads, no tracks. So we used to go around in our old jeeps and reach the line of actual control with or the McMahon line,
right,
where our troops are stationed. So those were the most memorable postings. One with the troops, the second with the military engineering services.
So how do you think discipline plays a role in the Indian Army's day-to-day operations and day-to-day life?
Discipline is integral. So if you are wearing a uniform, you are disciplined. There's no choice, because there is a structured role of command and control. The command flows from top to bottom. And so discipline is inherent part of the service life.
Personally, in your personal opinion, what would you say that there are any negative aspects of joining the Indian Army in relation to your regiment? I'm not talking about others, because since you're part of the Bengal Sappers, part of the engineer course, so you'll be better equipped to answer around that.
I do not associate any negative connotation.
Any challenges?
I mean, frankly, those who are not able to join the services, they would be better placed to talk about the challenges.
Right.
So, having been a part of these services, I mean,
so in your opinion, because you have seen both side of life, you have been part of the armed forces for 22 years, and then you have been part of the corporate side of life as well. Which is better or worse?
See, we had a good time serving the army. We did our bit. And then I decided to quit when I felt that I could utilize my expertise, my knowledge, and the education which I had during my service. I could put it to better use outside. Army is a structured organization. It's a triangle with just one person at the top. So it is a very steep triangle. And all those who can't make it to the top have to fall by the side. I took that decision early in life, and I was fortunate to get many opportunities to use my knowledge, skills, and education in the field of water and wastewater engineering. And I got my first break after my premature retirement in 1996. I joined a consulting company in Pune, and I had the opportunity to provide water to several villages which were traditionally not able to get water from any source anywhere. And so that was a life-changing experience.
So you have also worked very close with Singapore in terms of water management. Why don't you talk us a little bit about your experience working in Singapore and the water crisis that it is dealing with?
You see, Singapore is a country which is a city country.
Exactly, yeah.
With a population of about 5.4 million. And Singapore sources its water mostly from Malaysia, or it used to. So they have a public utility board, PUB they call it, which is responsible for their water supply. And the PUB supplies water to the Singapore, the whole country. They have 4-5 sources. They have their own seawater desalination plants. They collect all the wastewater which is generated in the city. They treat that wastewater to a level that it can be blended with the freshwater source.
Wow.
So Singapore is a classical example of how water and wastewater should be managed. And not just for us, that is for people in India, but globally, Singapore is a classic case of the best water management in the world today.
There's this idea that people who are from the army, when they retire, it's a little easier for them to climb the corporate ladder. Is that correct?
I would not, put it that way. But yes, you see, there are certain qualities which you imbibe during your army services. And these qualities include your discipline, your attention to detail, your ability to tackle challenges, adhering to the timelines decided by the bosses. So these are certain qualities which come in handy when you join the corporate sector. The problem or the difficulty is in the selection of a career where you may feel that you are out of place because the other skills which are necessary for executing those, assignments in the corporate sector.
Right.
You may have certain challenges in terms of your computer literacy or the ability to switch over to the needs of the corporate world.
Exactly. Yes.
But I won't say it is impossible to overcome those. In fact, many of my colleagues and my juniors who have now retired, they are working very well and have carved a niche for themselves in the corporate sector, in construction, in several other areas, cyber security, for instance. I have a course mate of mine who is a global expert on, avionics of the helicopters.
Wow.
I mean, some of my colleagues have really excelled in their careers after leaving the army.
Right, sir.
And they are globally acknowledged as experts in their respective areas.
Right. So, what are the biggest conceptions about the Indian Army from the outside?
I mean, it is generally seen as a very respectable profession, very noble profession, and across the spectrum of civilians I have come across, they have a lot of respect for people from the army, armed forces, both serving and retired. Yes.
So, are there any misconceptions, as in, like, maybe what people think it is not true, something on those lines?
Except probably many civilians think that the army officers and armed forces personnel, they drink heavily and have parties all the time. That is.
But how true is that, sir?
No, it is far from the truth. In fact, I have not come across any people who give this kind of, who indulge in this kind of irresponsible behavior.
Right.
You see, the simple fact is that we are required to be on our toes 24/7, and therefore, everything that we do, there is an element of responsibility.
Right.
Always embedded in that.
Right, sir. So, have you ever come across any of your civilian friends or family requesting you to take you to canteen and give them like soaps for a very less cost?
Yeah, several times.
And how did you counter that?
So, sometimes politely, sometimes very bluntly, that it is a privilege for the people of the armed forces and is not open to civilians.
And how did they react to such a blunt answer today? I'm sure they did not ask you again after that.
No, they won't. They didn't.
So, Indian Army is often regarded as a hero. There's a narrative of heroism in the Indian Army. Do you think it often overshadows the darker realities?
You see, what we do as our routine tasks are sometimes seen as heroic deeds. For instance, the engineers are called upon during every disaster. Now we have the National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA, and then you have the NDRF at the state level and the central level. You will recall this NDMA is just about 2 decades old. Before that, all the work during the disasters, natural disasters, and even man-made disasters was tackled by the Indian Army Corps of Engineers generally. And sometimes even Corps of Signals were called upon to provide communications. So,
Right.
depending on their roles in combat or combat engineering, everything was done by the armed forces. Even today, army is the last resort
Exactly.
for any kind of situation. And where even the NDMA or the National Disaster Management Authority fails, the army takes over and is able to deliver. So that is the kind of work the army does. So if the people think that we are heroes, I mean, so be it. But as a army officer or as a defense personnel, I would not consider myself as a hero. It is just in my line of duty. That's it.
Right, sir. Do you think the Indian Army is at par with all the other armies of the world in terms of equipments, devices, technology?
We live in an era of transparency, and where everyone has a mobile and everyone can take a photograph and yes, publish it online, and then people have access to lot of information these days. So I'm sure you must have read the news about the Indian Armed Forces acquiring weapons. Our second nuclear submarine has just been made operational. So whatever is happening with the armed forces is now in the public domain,
Right.
and therefore, in the similar manner, whatever capabilities our adversaries have, our neighbors have, those are also in public domain.
Right.
There are several publications which run these columns periodically, and comparisons between, say, India and Pakistan or India and China, what is happening there, or which country has the kind of weapons which we have, or which are superior, which are inferior, what kind of military hardware or aircraft or the submarines we are sourcing from, and therefore this process of upgradation,
Right.
and taking our defense preparedness to the next level is a continuous process.
Right.
And definitely it has got some impetus during the last 10, 12 years. And these days you also see the involvement of the private sector in several, several areas of defense production for producing hardware to provide mobility and things like that.
Right.
So it's a continuous process.
Sir, do you think Indian Army is at par with the Pakistan Army or the Chinese Army?
No, again, it is, equivalence of the Indian Army with any other army is a rhetorical question,
Right.
and we'll get a rhetorical answer. But purely in terms of manpower, we are less than Chinese army. We are more than the Pakistani army. But that doesn't really give the complete picture.
Right. Have you so like Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw once said that when he had gone to Pakistan after the 1971 war, the Pakistani soldiers have paid immense respect to him for how he conducted everything during the 1971 war, the respect that he gave to the POWs and all of that. Have you ever had a memorable encounter with either a Pakistani soldier or an officer, or a Chinese soldier and officer, which has stayed there with you?
No,
Because at the end of
unfortunately,
the day, we are all soldiers, you know.
no, unfortunately, I haven't met any Pakistani soldier or a Chinese soldier or an officer during my career, or even after leaving the army.
Right.
But That notwithstanding, I keep meeting professionals from all these countries in my present uh, profession, which
Right.
I am now following.
Right, sir.
In the
And when they suppose know that you're an army officer, you're an Indian army officer, how is their reaction?
the reaction is good, sometimes curious, sometimes more appreciative than others.
Sir, have what would be your most fond memory of your service days of 22 years? If I have to ask you to give me one or two, I know it's very difficult, but the most fond memory.
You're talking about the army service,
Yes.
or the
Army service.
Hmm.
Your best memory.
Oh, you see, I told you about a water treatment plant which I constructed very early in my career.
Right.
So that was an Air Force station which faced water famine in 1979-80. There was no rainfall, and the whole station was facing acute water scarcity. So that was the time when I was able to mobilize a couple of companies. I was posted in Madhya Pradesh. So I got one or two agencies to come and drill tube wells for the station. And we were successful in getting some water from those tube wells. And that was, we were able to overcome the water scarcity and provide water to the entire station for the duration of that summer and for the following summers. And we created those sources of water which were earlier not there. So, for having done that, this was with the Air Force. I was an army officer, and I was given the commendation by Chief of the Air Staff. That was on the 15th August 1981, very early in my career.
Right.
So that is one of my fondest memories.
Right.
Being recognized by the head of another sister service was a watershed moment for me.
Right. So coming to your present journey that you're in, what are your future plans in terms of the role that you're currently playing?
See, I am working in the water sector. I have seen the decline of water resources in India, and I am convinced that the only manner in which this decline can be arrested is by reusing or reclaiming the wastewater which is generated. We go to the washroom, we flush, 10 liters of water goes down the drain. Now that same 10 liter can be treated and recycled within the building, within a mohalla, within a city, within a state, within the country. Today, we do not even treat the wastewater which we generate. Okay. Approximately 35 to 38% wastewater which is generated receives some degree of treatment. Okay. Some degree of treatment. Remaining is going into our rivers, our other water bodies, and polluting.
Correct.
So, to avoid this pollution and to avoid, being left high and dry with no water in the future for future generations, the only manner is to treat the wastewater and to use it. So we call it treated water reuse.
Right. So what according please continue. No, please continue first.
So treated water reuse is the only option left to us, which is exactly what Singapore is doing, which is what is being done in several other countries.
Right.
And we have to emulate them and follow that route. So that is that is my present work.
Right, sir.
I am also working on a few other projects of water supply, large scale projects, city scale projects. That is my present occupation.
So how alarming is Mumbai's water situation?
Mumbai is one of the blessed cities in the country, in that it receives its water uh, regularly. And in my memory, Mumbai has not seen water famine uh, during the last 60, 70 years. Having said that, Mumbai receives its water from approximately 150 kilometers distance.
Okay.
So if you travel towards Nashik, you see all those water lines bringing water to Mumbai. The problem is with the security associated with bringing water from a distance.
Right, right.
So it is not so much that a water famine may affect Mumbai water supply. It could be some other thing.
Right. Because often we've seen in a lot of documentaries and shows and even heard that areas such as Dharavi or the slums adjoining it, they often complain of water scarcity. They say the entire day there's only about 15 minutes of water which comes, or tankers come and they charge money and all of that. It's obviously the prime areas, say Kolaba, Juhu, Bandra, I think they are okay, but slums face a huge water issue. So according to you, is that not because of water scarcity but other reasons?
No, there is no scarcity. But what happens is, let's say you have this studio here, you have a toilet, and your water use is regulated. Right? If you take the area of this studio, which could be about 30, 40 square meters, you will find that in Dharavi, in 40 square meters, there will be 30 families living. They would be consuming 30 times the water that your studio consumes. So consider the water consumption there, and the fact that you can't lay lines there for 30 families.
Exactly.
Because there is a limit. So these are some of the issues because of which there is no water scarcity in the city as such, if you take the city as a whole. But inequitable distribution of water is definitely there. That is why the slum areas, many slums, they get less water than they should, considering the population.
Right.
So that is a problem.
Right. There are reports that Mumbai is in danger of submersion after a certain point of year due to rising sea levels. How true is that, or how is it bogus?
So there are reports that the sea levels are rising all over the world by some half a centimeter or 1 centimeter every year. So if Mumbai gets submerged, that will probably be after another 100 to 500 years.
So there's
definitely not during our lifetime.
Right.
So these are hypothetical questions, but climate change is real. The rise in sea levels is real. Whether it will steadily increase at the same level as it is increasing today, or whether that will increase exponentially, that is not known.
As a person, as an individual, what are the 3 things that we should do in our own capacity to help controlling climate change or the rising sea levels?
Okay, first of all, don't waste water because water is hard to get. You are in Mumbai, you are in Calcutta, you are in Pune, 2-3 cities which are blessed with water, plenty of water. The other cities are not so fortunate. If you are in Bangalore or if you are in, say, Chennai, you will face these issues. If you are in Delhi, you will face the issue. One is water. Second is the power consumption. Because there is a nexus between water and power. And power production needs a lot of water. So it draws on our water resources. And the third thing is all our existing ecosystems were not climate resilient or climate change resilient. but climate is changing. The global warming is happening, and this is going to affect all of us.
Right.
So these are the three things which we must bear in mind: water, energy, and climate change.
Right. And to conclude this podcast, my end question will be again related to the army. If there's a youngster who wants to be an engineer in the forces, again, three things that he or she or them they must have in mind.
Okay, so the first thing is that he has to be honest to himself that he actually wants to be a part of the elite service, and also wants to join the Corps of Engineers or Signals or EME, wanting to be an engineer. Then it calls for some special skills, choice of subjects at the higher secondary level, that is the 12th level or the junior college level. Has to excel in that. Second is the aspect of physical fitness. Has to be extremely fit and agile at that point in time when the joining the armed forces is imminent. And the third thing is the mindset. You have to switch off your cool ideas and just do as you are told.
Right.
So these are the three things that probably will help.
Colonel Bhaskar, it was a pleasure talking to you. It was wonderful, and I'm very happy and I'm very proud to talk to you, understand so much about the forces, about water conservation, and thank you so much for coming to our podcast. And from on behalf of the entire team, we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Jaideep and team. It was a pleasure coming here and having this chat with you. And thank you so much.
Pleasure all ours. Sir. Thank you, guys. Thank you.